Hello and welcome to the second video in my Might and Magic 6 Let's Play. This is the second introductory video in which I'll describe the basic mechanics of the game. And mechanics I've based on the data that I've collected while playing it and some very helpful internet resources. So let me first shout out Greyface, whose patch I'm using, and he has some mechanics explanation on his webpage as well. Then there's a very useful guide which actually was created in 1999 by Mark Markeley, and I've downloaded it back then, and I still have it, still have the original version, and you can still find it on the internet. And there's also the Might and Magic Wikia, which I took some stats for some of the tabs. So you can see there are many tabs at the bottom. I'm not gonna be going through all of them, because the basic mechanics portion, let's say here, and this part is, let's say, the data that I've created to illustrate more in-depth mechanics of the game, and I want to go through this in the second season. Well, I'll be trying to approach the game more cerebrally and more carefully. So look at those then. On this page, we're looking at the map of the land of Enroth. This is the scan of the cloth map that you get when you purchase the game, and if you buy the game on GOG, you can actually get this exact image. They screwed up a bit because the map extends just a bit higher, and they cut off parts of Whitecap, Silver Cove, and Sweetwater. But in general, this is a fair representation of the game, and just seeing this out of the box, this map, when I first saw it, it was very a grand feeling of, I see this map and I can imagine what sort of adventures await in this game. So this is the greatest way to introduce a player to any game, and it's very sad that nobody is thinking about these things anymore to give additional goodies. Everybody's now focused on, let's say, digital distribution without any physical objects, and well, not objects like this, at least. There are some bullshit objects like statues that I personally don't care about, but for an RPG, I think a physical map is really the thing that starts you off, and you can really appreciate the design of the game and the work that went into the game. So this is how the map would look like if you imagine it being made by someone in the, let's say, the medieval times. And this is actually a series of pictures of the in-game maps. So the map, the whole land is divided into 15 squares, 5 across and 3 down, and you can see there's a very good correspondence between what you see on the top and what you see on the on this map. So you can see how painfully how they took their time, the designers, to align everything and to make the world seem seamless. And the seams that you see in this are actually my inability to align everything pixel perfect. So this just shouts of a great game design, and I wish many more games came out like this. I understand Witcher 3 is a great game, but things like this just speak volumes to me on how great care was taken into the world generation, world creation. You can actually be sucked in immediately and just look to the road ahead. So in this game, you control a party of 4 characters, and you can select their classes from a selection of 3. So as per typical, let's say, RPG distribution, we have a Might class, Magic class, and Healing class. So a Might squared class is a Knight, Magic squared is a Sorcerer, and Healer class is a Cleric. And by combination, you can get an Archer when you combine Might and Magic. When you combine Might and Healing, you get a Paladin, and the Magic Healer is your Druid. These characters can undergo 2 promotions over the course of the game, which boosts their stats greatly, really, and their capabilities. and there are two basic, let's say, lifelines in the game. One is hit points and spell points. Each class has its own base hit points and spell points, and each level it gains some additional hit points or spell points, and each promotion also gives per level bonus. If you're interested, this is the formula that I've maybe not come up with, but I reverse engineered from the game. And this formula is realized in this table. So at level 1 with these statistics you have these, let's say, starting values for hit points and spell points. Now let's talk about stats. So there are 7 stats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there are 7 stats in the game. That's might, intelligence, personality, endurance, accuracy, speed, and luck. 3 of those stats have influence on character's hit point and spell point. So obviously endurance influences hit points. Let's say if I increase that endurance stat to 15, you can see hit points of all my characters have increased. And intelligence and personality have influence on the number of spell points your character has. But for each class it's different. So knights can never learn any magic, so they simply don't care about intelligence of personality. But other classes differ in this regard. So let's say paladins, like increasing personality increases their spell points, but increasing intelligence does nothing. On the for the archers it's reverse. Intelligence brings more spell points, but personality doesn't. Sorcerers rely on intelligence, clerics and personality, and druids are actually a combination. So both intelligence and personality will increase their spell points. Now you can see that there are actually 2 rows of data. So one is the actual stat value, and number 13 is, let's say, the neutral value. So you can see this is the actual modifier, stat modifier. So right, the equation is shown on the top, but I'll actually show you the graph in a second. But 13, let's say, if you have a stat value of 13, your modifier is 0. But if your stat is lower, for example it's 5, you can see now that my endurance is modifier is -4, and you can see it immediately reflected in the hit points. The same is for intelligence. You can see there's actually, you can't have negative hit points, spell points. That's because I used the wrong thing. Let me do this. I shouldn't have done that. Wanted to do this. Yeah. Okay. A bit of a fluke here. So contrary, if you increase your stat, let's say to 25, you can see that some classes have increased spell points. Yeah. So this is just a quick way to ascertain how powerful the character will be. And of course levels have influence on how much hit points and spell points you have, and also the promotion has a great influence. This is just a quick look on how the classes work from the point of view of the hit point and spell points, but the rest of the stats and their modifiers are shown in this tab. So here you have the stat value and the modifier which comes with the stat value. So if your stat is 0, your modifier is -6. As I said, 13 is 0, so it's treated as neutral. And in this region, the green region of the table, when you increase, like your stat modifier increases by 1 each time your stat increases by 2 points. So for example, if your stat is 13 or 14, your stat modifier is 0. You have to get to 15 to get to number 1. At 25 it changes to the delta of 5, so every 5 stat points you get a +1 modifier. At 50 it changes again to 25, and then at the end it's every 50 spell point, after 50 stat points you get a +5 modifier. Yeah, so this is the formula. You can copy it from the bar, but just to show you, let's say if I have a character which has a stat of 31, it will have a modifier of +6. Yes, and as I said, 13 is neutral. So the graph is pretty steep at the beginning, then it levels out. It's pretty straight. for the 25 region, and then it blows up again a bit. So each stat that I mentioned affects has some effect. So might modifier directly contributes to damage. So if your modifier is -4, you do 4 less damage. But if your stat is 50, then you do 30 more damage. Sorry, 50, not 500. You do 30 more damage. If your stat is 50, you do 9 more damage. It's a number that gets added after the roll. As I showed you on the previous tab, intelligence, personality, endurance, influence, spell points, and hit points. Accuracy, it's the bonus chance to hit. Speed is a recovery time. After you make an action, there is a bit of recovery, and the higher speed you have, the smaller that time frame will be. And luck is actually added to resistances. Some resistances are basically chances that you have to avoid to lower the damage, the magical damage made by enemy monsters. So this is where the luck comes in. I don't see it coming in anywhere else. Even though it says it has a small influence over everything, it doesn't seem to. So you can boost your stats using several methods. Some items can give you stat boost. Some wells can give you stat boost, but the most, let's say the most known method is by using potions. So in the potion tab, I'm basically showing the potion schematic for the whole game. So there are several tiers of potions. These are the raw ingredients that you can eat, which give you very small restoration of hit points, spell points, and poppy snaps actually causes poison. From these, if you have an empty bottle, you can create potions that actually have more of an impact. In the tier 1, in the tier 2, these are potions which are tier 1 and tier 2 are potions which are most useful at on the first 1/3 of the game, especially purple poison. Purple poison is extremely important because there are many enemies at the beginning which cause you to be poisoned or diseased. So you can cure disease by a spell, but poison can only be cured by, well, not only, but at the beginning it can be cured by this potion. So this is very important. By going up a tier, by usually combining tier 2 potion with tier 1 potion, or in the case of this, you can create from 2 tier potions, you create white potions, which have some magical give you some bonus stats, and the further combination of white potions with some of the tier 1 or tier 2 potions give black potions. And from these black potions, the most interesting are these 7 that increase your stats. So let's say if your character drinks Essence of Might, he adds 15 to Might and subtracts from Intellect. So it's very good, let's say, for a character like Knight who doesn't care about Intellect. You can just increase Might. But if you look at the potion potion of Intellect, Essence of Intellect, it adds 15 to Intellect and subtracts 5 from Might. So if you take both of these, you can actually see, in this I've combined them, that you'll get plus 10 to both, which is very useful. And the potion of Endurance is different in that it adds 5 to Endurance but subtracts 1 from all other stats. So your Endurance gain is the most, let's say the highest. So this is like maybe not the quick, because you can't create the black potions early in the game, but it's easy way to add let's say 9 to your stats in a simple manner. And this is just the listing of the potions you need and the amount that you need, the total amount of each item that you need. Yeah, so another method of adding to stats is by drinking some liquids which are prevalent in the game. Liquids have their color which correspond to each stat, and there's also some magical wells which are strewn across the land, which give you +2 to the attribute only well the attribute the stat is less than 15. So if your stat is 14 and you drink it, it will be 16, but you can't drink from that well again to increase that stat. This is very useful at the beginning, and we'll be using it in this run. At least we'll be using it once, let's say. But you can, from each well, you can drink only 8 times, not per character, per the whole party. So you have to choose wisely which character stats to increase. I'm not entirely certain. I haven't tested it, but I read somewhere that the wells reset when you go when you change map and come back. I don't know what's the reset time, but I won't be testing it in this run. In the second season, I'll most definitely check it out, because that's easy way to get your people up to, let's say, +1 stat modifier to get you to this level. Another way to increase your stats is to visit shrines. There are shrines strewn across the land in different regions, which correspond not only to different stats but also some resistances. If you visit this shrine, you'll get +10 to this stat, but you can only do it for a corresponding month. So to get +10 might, you have to get to a region called Bootleg Bay in January. If you go there anytime else, you'll get nothing. The same is obvious for each of those. So in the normal run, this shrine is basically not available, or at least I don't see a way that it can be done, because you need a spell that lets you walk on water, and you cannot buy that spell in your first town. So this seems to be out of range. In February, in the normal run, this is possible if you're pretty fast. So this is not a problem. The Silver Cove March Personality Shrine can be quite tricky because of the strong enemies, and you might not be strong enough to fight them or to defend against them in March. But starting April, every shrine should be available. I don't know if we'll get all the way to December. I usually end the game around August. In this run, we'll surely get to Bootleg Bay in January. In fact, it will be the second week of January. I'll show you later. Is there anything else I want to show you? I guess this is it from the, let's say, the basic mechanics. So the final part of, let's say, the character creation is choosing what skills will they possess. So there are several weapon skills, armor skills, magic skills, and miscellaneous skills that your character can have, and some characters can have some weapon skills that others can't. For example, sorcerer cannot learn any sword or axe skill, but they can learn bow, dagger. I'm not talking about third weapon yet. The same goes for each class, and knights can't learn any magic, so there is, let's say, no magic part in them. So in this, like, I've charted out my, let's say, my starting party. So I'll be using knight, paladin, cleric, and sorcerer. And I like to keep my parties quite even. So you increase the viability of each of these attributes by putting skill points into them, and skill points are becoming more and more dear the more advanced you are, and you have to get to some point. This is the let's say the charting out of the skill points. So there are 3 tiers of skills. You can be either novice, which is the beginning skill level, then you can advance to expert, and there are 2 teachers which can teach you only if your skill is at least level 4 and you pay them some hefty fine. And there is 1 master per skill, which requires, in most cases, requires some skill level, and there is an additional requirement. So let's say miscellaneous skills usually have requirement of skill level 7 and some other stat to be at some certain level. Now with this one we'll be worrying about this, but if you're playing the game casually, this might come into effect. Weapon skills require usually skill level 8, armor skills require skill level 10, and the most dear are magic skills, which require skill level 12, except for air, spirit, light, and dark, which don't require any, let's say, skill level, but require you to have, let's say, advanced pretty hefty throughout the game to get them. Yeah, so I like to keep my party balanced, as I said. So with these characters, you can see the total number of skills each character will be learning. It's more or less balanced. The knight will have least skills, so I'll be mostly putting them into and let's say into the fighting skills. The paladin has a bit more. All the magic classes usually have the most skills. That's why I've pumped all the, let's say, additional miscellaneous skills like disarm, traps, identify item, perception, repair onto the knight, so that he can really concentrate on the miscellaneous parts of the run, while the rest of the guys are not really burdened by having to put more skill points into those, and they can concentrate on what they do the best. So paladin is a combination of let's say might and magic. A cleric mostly be concentrated around this area, and sorcerer this area. Yeah, so this is gonna be my where I'll be concentrating, and I've already charted out which skills I'll be taking at the beginning. At the beginning you have 2 skills which are assigned to the class, and you can take 2 more. So if so each character should have 4 skills. The reason why some of them have only 3 is because one skills which is assigned to them at the beginning is the one that I will not be upgrading. So I guess this is what I wanted to say about the basic mechanics. I guess the explanation of what each skill does, on what each magic does, is gonna come up during gameplay, so I will not do that here. Since this video is already a bit long and I really want to get into the game. So the next episode is going to be episode 1 of the actual Let's Play, and where we'll talk throughout the history, watch some nice videos, and do the, let's say, the gimmick part of the game that makes the playthrough much easier. And I'll see you then.